Being featured is brought to you by Lucky Horseshoe, A&R Electrical Services, and Patient Spirit Productions.
My guest being featured today is the managing director of the Surfside Wellness Center. His name is George Griffith. George, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, in 1987, let's just go back a while, you were off to Southampton studying electrical engineering.
Correct.
And just 10 years down the road, you found yourself owning a wellness center. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, I went away to study electrical engineering I got a scholarship. And while I was at university, I was always very active, even before I left Barbados, in fact. I played rugby nationally when I was 15. I ran track and field and played basketball. I did pretty much every sport there was to do, some of them better than others. So I got to university and I was on student government. I was responsible for sports and games, ironically. And then one Sunday morning, the aerobics instructor did not turn up. And obviously responsibility fell to me. I was faced with a room full of about 100 women looking for a class to do. And I had to produce something. So I had a buddy of mine who had a Madonna Mega Mix CD of all things. Nice. I'm not sure why he had it, but he had it. So I borrowed it from him. And I got up in front of the class and did what I thought was, the right thing to do. When I ran out of moves and I looked at my watch, it was 10 minutes later for our class. So for me, that was never to happen to me again. So I took my first certification with the Royal Society of Arts, exercise to music, and as they say, the rest is history. I returned to Barbados in 1994, and it would have been very difficult for me to maintain my UK certifications because I wasn't going to be traveling back and forth to England all the time. So I did a certification with the American College of Sports Medicine. I did what at the time was called a Health Fitness Instructor certification, and now we provide education through the American College of Sports Medicine in Barbados. We actually do a certified personal training certification on an ongoing basis through Surfside Wellness Center.
Yeah, so talk about purchasing Surfside. Any concerns earlier?
Well, yeah, I mean, when you're starting a new business, I have to tell you, I had $0 before I took over Surfside. I mean, I had a little money saved, but it wasn't anything substantial. So Maureen Surfleet, who was the owner of Surfside Wellness Center at the time, was a kind of a mentor of mine. Whenever I would come home on holiday, she would always give me a vacation job at the club and so on. And she was ready to move out of the business. And so she offered me a chance to take it over from her. And I have to say the price that she offered to her was very, very good price, but it was still a lot of money for me because I had none at the time. I went to the bank and got the largest loan I could get unsecured and basically passed it on to her. And I was able to build a business one day at a time. There was a lot of uncertainty, obviously, because you have no money and you just bought this huge business that you have to make work. But we'd earn the money from Monday to Friday. On Saturday we'd spend it, we'd knock out a wall, put in some new equipment. And the main thing I think that caused us to be successful was a very high level of customer service, a real strong emphasis on making sure that our trainers and staff were educated, and putting strong programming that people could relate to and really connect with to build connections with the club.
Yeah, and talk about the importance of having educated staff.
Well, it is paramount. I mean, I've done practically every certification there is to do in the book by now, but I still feel that for that first 2-3 years when I was out there doing my best, I still had huge gaps in my education. So while, like I was saying to you previously, anybody could put on a shirt and go on YouTube nowadays. There's a university of YouTube nowadays, as you know. Go on YouTube and see some exercise videos and so on. It doesn't really give you that in-depth knowledge of the field. The human body is a very complex thing. That's why people have to go to school for 7 years to be a doctor. And if you're going to be imposing people to stresses and that very complex organism, you really need to have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to do it. It's good for the consumer. It's better for the fitness industry as a whole if we all have at least a minimum level of certification to work with apparently healthy individuals. And that's why it was very important to me to be able to offer this education in Barbados, because currently, at the time and currently still, there was no way for a Barbadian to become certified as a personal trainer. You had to get on a plane, fly to wherever, 2 or 3 or 4 nights accommodation for a certification. That was a 2-day certification. Now, 2 days is never going to be enough for you to really have any sort of in-depth knowledge on how to train individuals who might be coming to you with risk factors from diabetes. People might be coming with orthopedic limitations. People might be trying to get some sort of specialty programming. You really need to go through that process, I think, and get an education in fitness.
I'll talk about the personal training program you have running right now.
Yeah, so in the early days, what we did was we got the American College of Sports Medicine to come down to Barbados and actually administer this course for us. And after working with them for quite a few years, they were satisfied that we now had the ability to carry on the course ourselves. So we run this course about twice a year. And the course is functional anatomy and biomechanics, exercise physiology, nutrition and weight management, human behavior and counseling. And we teach 60 hours basically. We tend to run it over a 6-week period, but it's a very intense 6-week period. 10 hours every week, so 60 hours in total, which is kind of the same length of course that an undergraduate student at university would do during their first semester. It's very common for students studying exercise physiology or biomechanics to do that personal training course at university so they can then work and pay themselves through university. So 60 hours adult education, obviously, which means that Monday to Friday you do your prep, and on Saturday and Sunday we come out and we teach you how to apply that in a practical setting when you're training individuals on the floor.
Yeah, and Surfside also offers things like box exercise. There's fat loss programs. Talk about some of the programs that you guys have at Surfside.
Well, how much time have you got? I mean, we have so much varied programming. We have everything from CrossFit through our WOD Barbados programming to box exercise, like you said. We have indoor cycling, Zumba, and then we have kind of specialty one-on-one programs as well. We have a GG30 program, which is my own branded program, which is a 30-day physique transformation program. We have our 6-week fat loss program, which has been running since 1997, is one of the most successful weight loss programs on the island. And we have a program that I am very proud of, very, very proud of, in fact, and it's our senior fitness program. When we decided to launch this program, we recognized that there was nothing that was geared towards that population. Many seniors have retired, they have the wear and tear of life on their joints and bones and so on, and nothing was really pitched towards them. Music was too loud, there was too much high impact, and there was no sense of community. So we started this program, I think in maybe around 2000 we started this program, and this is our most successful program to date. It's our most heavily subscribed program. The seniors, they pick each other up, they bring each other to class, they stay afterwards and talk. And for a population where your children might have moved on, some people might now be widowed, it really helps to build that sense of community and give them something to look forward to every week. Of course, as well as extending their lives by a few years as well through physical activity.
Well, when we come back, we'll hear more from Manager and Director of the Surfside Wellness Center, George Griffith. Welcome back to the show. We have with us today the Managing Director of the Surfside Wellness Center, George Griffith. George, let's talk about the topic that a lot of people have major concerns about, that is fat loss. And I guess we could discuss the healthy way of doing it. Okay,
well, before we get to the healthy, let's talk about some of the unhealthy ways.
Okay.
Anything that's focusing on a quick fix program is going to be an issue with you. There's something called metabolic compensation. When you're body reduces when you reduce the calories too quickly, your body makes adjustments to your metabolic rate. So you lose weight quickly, but then your metabolism slows down as well. So you go back to eating anything that's close to a healthy or normal diet, and that weight rebounds. Anything that has a heavy emphasis on supplements, fat burners, and dehydration supplements and so on. Again, it's central nervous system stimulants. For some people, that's very high risk. And once again, your body gets used to it, and all the gains go, and you start to put back all the fat. So the idea is to make small changes over time to see lasting benefits. So there's two things we're going to do. One, we're going to try and make some adjustments to what we're doing nutritionally, and then the adjustments we're going to make are what we're doing from a physical activity point of view. Not everyone can get into a gym or a fitness center and do a structured program to lose weight. So you can start to make some changes just by increasing your level of physical activity on a day-to-day basis. I might, for example, park my car on the lower car park and walk up. I get an extra 5 minutes of activity just walking up. Instead of taking the elevator at work, I take the stairs, and so on and so forth. Anything that you can do to increase physical activity, gardening on the weekend, taking the dog for a walk, all those things will help to increase your physical activity. And then you look at what you're eating on a day-to-day basis. Let's say I could estimate my daily caloric intake by, I could say, I'm eating about 2,500 calories a day. If I decide that I'm going to reduce my daily caloric intake by 500 calories a day, which is about a Coke, if you eat sweet bread and so on, one slice of Barbados sweet bread is 330 calories.
Wow.
Exactly. So you take out the Coke, you take out one other little piece of junk food that you're eating, and that could be 500 calorie reduction per day. You do that for a whole week, and that's a 3,500 calorie reduction. That's a pound of fat a week, just by making very small changes in your diet. And the fitter you get and the more time you have, obviously the more you can do to start to make a lifestyle change, because it really needs to be a lifestyle change. Otherwise, what's going to happen, whatever you're doing is going to be too much for you to sustain,
Right.
and the weight's going to come back.
So talk about the importance of having your basal metabolic rate and BMI, those things sorted out so you could hit those goals.
Right. Now, it's funny you mention this, because the basal metabolic rate is the calories your body burns when you're resting.
Yeah.
This is basically the number that your body needs to sustain life at your current weight. There are lots of calculations out there. And in fact, about 2 or 3 years ago, I came off the exercise floor and I kind of went back in the lab. I got every piece of research I could find, because for me, there was a section of the population out there that was baffling me.
Okay.
And that section in population were people who were coming to the gym 5 days a week, exercising. They weren't messing around. They were working hard, and they were eating relatively healthy, but they still weren't seeing the changes on the scale. If you had to do their blood work, their blood glucose was fine, their blood pressure was fine, their blood cholesterol was fine, just they weren't seeing that fat loss. And so I started to look at and try to determine, obviously there was some genetic factor involved, what was the influence of genetics versus lifestyle. It's about a 67% lifestyle compared to genetics.
Okay.
But obviously 33% is still huge when you talk about trying to change your lifestyle and lose weight. And so I came up and found all the predictive equations for resting metabolic rate. And every study was showing me that all the predictive equations were off by some factor.
Okay.
And the one we use most often in the fitness industry, called the Catch-McCardle equation, was off by as much as 70% for some populations. So I'm like, okay, we're not estimating, we're not calculating. We need to measure a person's resting metabolic rate. And so we invested in a metabolic cart. And this is basically a machine that we hook you up to, and we measure your gas exchange. We know how much energy it costs your tissue to use oxygen and expel carbon dioxide. So we sit you down, we put you onto the hose, we have you breathe into the hose, into the machine for a period of time, and then we get a very precise number of your resting metabolic rate. And truthfully, this thing has been a major breakthrough for us, because all the equations will tell you that resting metabolic rate has to do with how much tissue you have in your body. Yet, the highest resting metabolic rate we've ever seen measured was by an individual who was 98 pounds. So, according to the equations, her resting metabolic rate should be somewhere around 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
And it was over 3,000 calories. And then we have guys who've come in and they're 250, 280. When we do their resting metabolic rate, it's 1,200 calories. And this might be an effect of some medication they've been on, or some other lifestyle modification that they've had that's caused their resting metabolic rate to go down. So the only way you can really determine what that number is by measuring it precisely. Once you measure it, then you can say, okay, my resting metabolic rate is 1,500 calories a day, for example. I am going to do 500 calories worth of exercise. That puts me at 2,000 calories a day. So if I want to lose weight, I need to eat less than that. So maybe I need to eat of the 2,500 calories that my body is going to use, I need to eat 2,000 calories, and that excess 500 calories will come off my body as fat.
Okay, well, you mentioned body types earlier. Let's start with that. I guess there are 3 types of body types. So speak about the body types and how each type should approach the gym, eating, that sort of stuff.
Right. Well, not to be too technical with the jargon, there's one guy who's very skinny.
Right.
And no matter what he eats or how much weight he lifts, it seems like he just doesn't gain weight.
Right.
Then there's the other guy who's very big, and he's on every diet he can find, and he's training hard and doing lots of cardio, and he still never seems to be quite as lean as this guy in the middle, who doesn't seem to do anything but gets up in the morning, ripped to shreds, muscles popping out. That guy is just a genetic phenom, and he responds very well to training. So based on your body type, you have to adjust your training schedule to suit. You know, the guy who's very thin, very skinny, he's going to go towards as little calorie expenditure as he can. He wants to train just hard enough to stimulate muscle growth, and then to feed his body as much as he can to get that muscle to grow. And that other guy, he wants to do as much, he wants to be burning as many calories as he can in his session.
This is bigger guy.
The big guy who doesn't quite get as lean as he wants, even though he's doing everything right. So his training session might look a lot different to the skinny guy. His training session would be a session where he's hardly resting. So let's say he's in the gym and he's doing a workout that involves lower body and upper body. Rather than doing lower body first and then sitting down resting for 2 minutes for the legs to recover, he's doing the lower body, and while the lower body is recovering, he does an upper body exercise. When the upper body is recovering, he does a cardio exercise or a core exercise, and he's cycling all the time. So in the same half hour, 45 minutes or 60-minute period as the skinny guy, he might expend 3 times the number of calories, because the skinny guy is going to put on some weight, he's going to do 6 to 8 reps, he's going to rest, recover, and then go again. So you really have to choose a workout that is going to be best fitted to you. Not just the workout, but the diet as well, to get the goals that you're looking for. Obviously, that genetic phenom, he just wakes up in the morning, thinks about exercise, and looks better.
Now, why ask? Because you know there are persons who believe that the mesomorphic, which is the genetic phenom, the guys actually know. When really and truly, you know, those guys are just gifted, or some people say genetically gifted. So I guess that's what I ask.
Yeah, and that's very common in the fitness industry. For me, the most important muscles that my trainers develop is the brain. Right? So I have, you know, it's still very common. We have clients who come in, and the perception is, if you look like that and I train with you, I'm going to look like that as well.
Yeah.
Right? But that's obviously not the case. There may be some reason why a trainer is not in his best shape right now.
Yeah.
It might be that he's got some injury. It might be that he's having some life challenges and training is just not a focus right now. But if he knows, if he has the knowledge, skills, and ability, he can get you to look he can get you to look in a way that is to your genetic potential, regardless of his shape. So it's not always just, okay, let me look around the gym and see who's the best looking in shape trainer and go and train with them, because that person might just be born like that, you know, and they may not be able to do you any good at all. In fact, they might actually, sometimes when a guy is so genetically gifted, he doesn't work as hard on his education because he knows that he's going to attract the clients just based on how he looks.
Yeah, and let's touch base on supplements. Let's talk about supplements. You know, I guess the average bodybuilder, average person that goes in gyms has a stack. You know, people usually say protein, creatine. So what are some of these supplements that you should be targeting when you're going in the gym to get the maximum out of your workouts?
Right. So again, we need to look at the supplements as exactly that, supplemental to a healthy diet. At the base of everything is a healthy diet. Now, the reason we're going to supplement is because the stresses of the exercise program that you're on are such that even eating a healthy diet, your body's not recovering as quickly as it should, and you may not be getting enough of your workouts because you might start to plateau. So how do I get through this plateau? I need some supplements that are going to help me train a little harder, recover a little quicker, and be able to do more work. So pre-workouts are very common. People who have to be careful with pre-workouts are anyone who might be sensitive to caffeine, because that kick that we get from the pre-workout tends to be caffeine based. If you're sensitive to caffeine and you feel palpitations or you have any sort of contraindications because you might be hypertensive, avoid the pre-workout. and stay away from that. Now, the buzzword now in fitness is in-session nutrition. So it was always pre-workout nutrition and post-workout nutrition, but now we're finding that the meal that seems to have the most effect on muscle gain is what we do during the workout session. A large reason for that is that during extended or very intense workouts, your body just cannot supply enough energy from carbohydrates alone. And what happens is that it might tend to break down muscle tissue and use the amino acids from the muscle protein to provide energy. This is obviously not what we want. We don't want to be using muscle protein for energy. We want to be using carbohydrates for energy and protein for rebuilding muscle tissue. So using a branched chain amino acid during the exercise session provides those branched chain amino acids immediately, helping to stave off this muscle breakdown. And it also helps you to recover very much more quickly as well. So traditionally, as far as post-workout nutrition is concerned, we want some. This is probably the only time that we want a very high glycemic index carbohydrate.
Right.
Directly after your training session. Because that little spike in insulin that you get actually helps to shunt nutrients into your muscles. So this is a great time to be refueling with a creatine-based supplement that has some sort of sugar in it, whether it's juice or some supplement that's specially prepared to get that boost into your insulin levels up and shunt that creatine back into your muscle. And then within 30 to 40 minutes of that, a whey protein supplement. Whey protein has got one of the highest bioavailabilities out there. Bioavailability, we mean that when you take in 25 grams of whey protein, your body is going to use just about all of that 25 grams. So there's no wastage. It's very quickly absorbed, very stable protein, goes straight to your muscles, as opposed to having to eat food and wait for it to be digested. And if you eat 10 pounds of chicken, you may actually only absorb 4 pounds. Well, obviously not pounds. Let's say ounces instead of pounds. Yeah. That type of thing. But for those people out there who aren't really too big on the supplements, I would say as a pre-workout meal, maybe a green tea. Green tea is very good because it keeps your cognitive function. It makes you sharp and alert. Yeah. And the mechanism through which green tea breaks down fat is different to caffeine. It's not a central nervous system supplement. It actually has something that helps to liberate the fat from your body and put it into systemic circulation for use. During the actual workout, have something that might be a combination of some kind of sugar and protein. Right afterwards, again, have a very good protein source, and you should be good to go after that.
Okay, well, let's finish. There's something happening the 16th of October, 16th and 17th of October. So tell us about that, what's going on.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this event, Joe. The 16th and 17th of October is the All Max Nutrition Fitness Extravaganza. We're trying to put Barbados on the map on the 16th of October by breaking the world record for the most persons in one place doing burpees together. Nice. Currently the record is 386. We have a sponsor, a school campaign, so we can get the school kids, because we don't want Guinness to come down here and see us fail at this attempt. We know the adults are going to come out, but we don't want to get to 385 adults and be scratching our heads. So we're doing a sponsor school campaign. If you want to sponsor school, we'll send the bus to the school, give all the kids the welcome pack with a free t-shirt and everything that they get. They come into the stadium and they help us to get our numbers up. And then we start the All Max Fitness Challenge, the Suppligent All Max Fitness Challenge, which is our CrossFit type event. This is in its third year. Last year we were at the National Stadium. This year we are at the Usain Bolt Sport Complex. Right. And this is an incredibly exciting event. We're expecting competitors from all over the world. We start out with another burpee record attempt, the most burpees in 1 minute. We have the 3 preliminary events, the track event, and then a swim on the Saturday morning. And then we bring back the finalists on the 17th to finish up the competition at Usain Bolt Sport Complex. And of course, we have to have a celebration party afterwards. So we're doing a big fitness fete afterwards at Boatyard, October 17th. Nice,
George. Very informative. I want to thank you very much for coming. A lot of information was
Thank you for the opportunity, Joe.
Of course. Well, my guest being featured today, the Managing Director of the Surfside Wellness Center, George Griffith.